Hello, I'm Victor Ubo, and I'm going to be explaining how I go about the test I was given. So I'll start by going through the mail. So I started by coming here and then get to understand what I was required to do. So the mail needed asked that I create a one-page app. Okay, first that I'll be building a one-page app, either Android or iOS, for a Nigerian robo advisor. So the name of the app first I deduced was that it's going to be robo advisor. So apart from getting that, I went through these samples and get some inspiration, but I didn't go right into writing codes. I said I thought about it, try to make it understand and make it part of me first. So uh after I spent like 2 days trying to understand, get through stuffs, and I later decided to make a sketch on a piece of paper on how the screen is going to look like. And after that sketch, I now have to take steps. So step one here was to upload some data, which is this, to upload this data to MongoDB, and then create an API. Step two is to create an API. So I have a few framework I would have used, but I later choose to use Next.js. My reason is I wanted to keep everything React. So Next is a React framework. So it's a full stack framework though. So I use Next. So I created a project on Next, use name it Robo Advisor, sorry about that, and then move to page API. I created a subdirectory rig score, and the index folder of that rig score is going to return the list of all the rig score that I've added to MongoDB. I use Mongo. um I didn't use a local database. I use Mongo. What do they call it? Let it load up so that I can just take the name from there. So I use Mongo cluster to store the data. So I didn't just upload them manually. I created a function. This add part of it is what I use to programmatically add the different data to the backend, or to the database. I use this. I have a plugin on Android Studio that I use to test my post get and rest API. So I use this to add send a post request to the add endpoint. So this add endpoint is just going to, this is my schema. I have a schema here. So this is my schema, and it's going to be adding a rig score based on that schema to the backend, or to the MongoDB, sorry. So I have all these data in the MongoDB, which is me finishing the first step. And then for the second step was to create an API, which I'll use, which is already, this an API to, this was an API to add to the database, and this one is to get. So my index directory, when you go to rig score, is going to get all the data. Let me try it with this plugin. So I can choose to get. So if I'm choosing that, definitely it doesn't need a body. Or okay, let me create a new one, so that in case I need that later. So I'll just go ahead and say new requests, and then I'll copy this from here. I'll copy that, and then I'll replace here. It was going to be a post request. Alright, but I did host my, after finishing the API, I hosted it on Vessel. I created an account with Vessel, and then I hosted it. So this endpoint is already hosted, so I don't have to use my local host. I can just directly use that here. So it's going to process that and then give us a JSON response. So these are all the data there. So this is more or arranged compared to this other one. So this is my API to get the scores. So there are total of 10 rig score. So after creating the endpoints and then I hosted it on Vessel, that made me complete my step 1 and step 2. So the step 3 was to design and build a one-page app, which within the app create a section where the user can select the risk tolerance. Given the risk tolerance chosen by the user, you create a visually pleasing modern UI that shows the portfolio of that user. So my step 3, to move into the step 3, remember first I did make a sketch. So I went to Figma, design a simple screen. This is not really with this a user can select their risk score, that's the risk tolerance. I would have loved to change that name to risk tolerance, but let's just leave it at risk score. No, let me try changing it to risk tolerance. Cute. So have a risk tolerance, so you can just go ahead, choose the risk tolerance, and this is a graph that will change based on what you choose in here. So this risk tolerance is going to be something like this. It's going to show the current tolerance that you have moved. So then this is a breakdown of each of it: 60%, 30% of goal, etc. After I created this design, I moved into making the real thing, which is building the app. So here is the application, my code base. So the things I used here, the packages, libraries I used here first. Let me run the application so that we can see what it looks like. So I'll just split that and then rebuild the whole thing afresh. So I'll go to my app.js. So to have a better experience here, I made use of, and to make everything look simple, I make use of async storage. So async storage is more simple compared to Redux. So that's why I choose async storage here. And then this is how my storage look like. And I also make use of, I created a package and then call it storage. So this is how the code on the storage looks like. I make use of context because I want to be able to pull out that particular data every time I visit the app. I don't, because without using a context, you'll be taking out the data you put in at the runtime. So if you put in a data on runtime, when you leave and come back, that data is gone. You have to put in another one. So I use context and then create a provider and then expose some public methods. So now on my app.js, the application just finished, is still building. On my app.js, I have the provider, and then the provider is going to be the container of everything that I have to do in my application. So I just did some dark mode for enablement for some phones. And then this is my portfolio screen. This is where the real thing is going on. I created a package too for endpoint. I just want to keep things separate. So I have my assets folder, and my asset folder contain colors. Colors are just strings and a string objects that I can see my primary color and easily use it. My secondary color, white, black, and my endpoints just have my best URL. And for now, for this project, I have just one stuff. So if we observe what happened here, when I open this app for the first time, everything appears to be empty, and then all of a sudden get fixed. That will happen only once in the course of using this app. That's because while it was empty, I was trying to get data from the back end and get it into the storage. So let me just explain a little approach here. So in here I have remember my context, this is from my storage, so I have both the add and the actual data. So after I try this get risk score, trying to get it from the back end, that's from the data MongoDB. I will, after getting it, I use this particular function to put it into my async storage. Now I'm loading this data directly from my async storage. So when next a user visits this app, I get the data from async storage, and then while the user is still using the app, this function is running on from the background to get any update if there is any. So if there's any changes in the MongoDB on the back end, it will synchronize while the user is still using the app, so you will not have that wait time to wait. That's the reason I go through that extra stuff to make sure that I make that possible. Let me just leave the app and get back so that we see that experience. So if I leave and then get back to Robo, let me search for it, Robo Advisor. When the app loads up, we will just go ahead and see the data. Now if I put this device on flight mode, now it does not have access to the internet because I'm running a debug version. There are some stuff we'll be able to see. And let me close the app so that we can, yes. So if I come back to this app, I'll still have data to show. Here is it, and it's saying network request failed. That's because it couldn't get data from the backend, but I still have data to display to the people. So now I can move this slider. When I move it to, let's say 2, we had some changes here, and then I can still move it further. I'll have another change. It's now at 5. I'm having this. You can see the Nigerian stock 31, 8, 6, 5, a breakdown of everything, and then this just will display what's going on at the time. So I can take it to 10 to see how the rendering happens for that. Take it to 1 and can decide to take it to 0 to see what goes on. So I did some magic around here, and just the way I'm trying to make everything look a little bit reusable for me. So I like the code to be reusable. So basically just that, and I have one image folder, and then yeah, it was a one screen. So this is one screen. I don't think there's anything. Okay, I use fetch for my network call because of simplicity too. So I think, yeah, I can now bring this back, can take it back. So even though I come back online, if there's any change at all, it's going to synchronize without me knowing, and then it's going to put it to the storage on its own. Nobody will question or ask that. So here is the app. I going to build the APK, that's the app file, and then I'll attach it to somewhere so that we can have access to it too. Okay, so basically I think that's all I needed to explain. Okay, the next step there was the step 4, which was to create this stuff, and then submission, which is the next thing I'm gonna be doing. So